I used to believe that marriage meant safety, that the man you chose, the family you built, the life you created together, it was all supposed to protect you from the world. I was wrong. My name is Claire Donovan, and this is the story of how my husband's arrest destroyed our family, and how I was the one who had to put it back together. It started on a Tuesday afternoon in October. I was folding laundry in our living room in Detroit, listening to the news on low volume, when I heard a name I never expected to hear on television. Ryan Donovan, a senior account manager at Hale Industries, was taken into custody today. The laundry basket slipped from my hands. That was the moment my life split in two, before the news and after. But here's what they don't tell you about betrayal. The worst part isn't what he did, it's what you discover about yourself when you're the one who has to clean up the mess. This is my story, and if you've ever trusted someone with your whole heart only to have it shattered, stay with me, because the truth changes everything. If you love emotional, true stories of survival and justice, consider subscribing. This journey takes turns you won't see coming. Safety was an illusion I believed in. My name is Claire Donovan. Before everything fell apart, that name meant something in this city. Not because of me, because of them, the Donovans. My husband Ryan came from one of those families, the kind where your last name opens doors before you even knock. His father, Tom, built Donovan Construction from nothing into a regional empire. His mother, Linda, ran the local women's auxiliary like she was running for office. Sunday dinners at their house were events. The good china, the right wine, the perfectly polished conversations about nothing. I met Ryan when I was 26, working as a receptionist at a dental office. He came in for a root canal, nervous as a kid, and I held his hand during the procedure. He told me later that was the moment he knew. Most people look away when someone's scared. You looked right at me, he said. We married 2 years later. I became Claire Donovan, and for a while, that felt like winning the lottery. Our son Caleb was born 14 months after the wedding. Cal, blue eyes like his father, stubbornness like me. By the time he was 7, he could argue his way out of any punishment and charm his way into any kitchen for cookies. Ryan worked long hours at Hale Industries, Victor Hale's company, one of the biggest manufacturing firms in the Midwest. Victor was an old friend of Tom Donovan's. When Hale needed a trusted account manager, Tom recommended his son. Ryan wasn't qualified on paper, but in this city, paper didn't matter. Connections did. Ryan brought home a good salary, a very good salary. We bought a house in the suburbs, 3 bedrooms, backyard with a swing set, the kind of place where neighbors brought casseroles when someone died. We had 2 cars, a retirement account, and a golden retriever named Gus who ate socks and was beloved anyway. I worked part-time at a local bookstore, just for fun, not for money, for fun. That's how comfortable we were. You don't have to work at all, Ryan used to say. Stay home, read, take care of Cal, let me handle everything else. I liked hearing that, liked feeling protected. But here's what I didn't understand then. When someone handles everything else, they also handle the parts you never see coming. Sunday dinners at Tom and Linda's were performances. Not intentionally, they were good people, mostly. Tom built his business with his own hands, started as a framer, ended as a millionaire. He had calloused palms and a handshake that could crack walnuts. Linda ran the household like a CEO, which I suppose she was in her way. But money changes things, changes people, changes how they love. At those dinners, the conversation always circled back to success. Who was winning? Who was failing? Who bought what? Who sold what? The Donovan name was a brand, and everyone was expected to protect it. Ryan's younger brother, Nate, was the golden child. He'd gone to law school, married a woman named Erin who looked like she stepped out of a catalog, and now worked for the city prosecutor's office. Nate and Erin had twin girls who danced and did gymnastics and never spilled anything. And then there was us. Ryan, who worked for someone else's company, me, who worked at a bookstore, Cal, who sometimes talked too loud and forgot to say yes, sir, to his grandfather. Tom never said anything directly. He didn't have to. The comparisons lived in the silences, in the way his eyes lingered on Nate a moment longer, in the way Linda asked Erin about her charity work and asked me if I'd read any good books lately. Dad just wants what's best for everyone, Ryan would say afterward in the car on the way home. I'd nod, because what else could I do? But I saw the way Ryan's jaw tightened after those dinners, saw how he'd stay up late working, reviewing spreadsheets, making calls, saw the desperation underneath the surface. He wanted to prove himself to his father, to the family, to himself, and Victor Hale knew exactly how to use that. People ask me sometimes what Ryan was really like before. He was kind, genuinely kind. He brought me coffee in bed every Saturday morning, even after 10 years of marriage. He read bedtime stories to Cal with different voices for every character. He cried at movies, not just sad ones, but happy ones too, when things worked out for people. He was also anxious. That part I didn't see clearly until later. A constant hum of worry underneath everything. Fear of failure, fear of disappointing people, fear of being seen as less than. "You're enough," I used to tell him. "You're more than enough." He'd smile, nod, and then go back to working. Victor Hale was in his 60s then, silver hair, expensive suits, the kind of smile that made you feel like the most important person in the room. He'd built Hale Industries into a regional powerhouse, but everyone knew the company was struggling. Manufacturing was changing. Competition was fierce. Victor needed loyal people who wouldn't ask too many questions. Ryan was perfect for that. He came home one night with a new assignment. Special projects, he called them. Confidential stuff, big accounts. "Victor trusts me," he said, pouring himself a drink, something he didn't usually do. "Really trusts me, Claire. This could be huge." I hugged him, told him I was proud. I didn't ask what the special projects were, didn't ask why they needed to be confidential, didn't ask why Ryan seemed more stressed than excited. I didn't ask because I trusted him, because that's what marriage means, right? Trust. That's what I told myself. The summer before everything broke was perfect. I hold on to it now like a photograph. Cal was 12, old enough to be independent, young enough to still want us around. We went to Lake Michigan for a week, rented a cottage, grilled burgers, played cards when the power went out during a storm. Ryan laughed more that week than he had in months. Real laughs, deep ones. One night we sat on the porch after Cal went to bed. The lake was glass. The sky was bruising purple. Ryan took my hand. "I'm sorry I've been distant," he said. "Work's just complicated right now." "Tell me about it." He hesitated. I saw something flicker in his eyes, maybe fear, or guilt, or both. "I can't. Not yet. But soon. When it's over, I'll tell you everything." I squeezed his hand. "I don't need to know everything. I just need to know you're okay." He wasn't okay. Neither of us knew that yet. But that night, on that porch, watching the lake turn dark, I believed we were. School started in September. Cal entered 7th grade. Ryan went back to long hours. I went back to the bookstore and Sunday dinners and the quiet rhythm of normal life. Then the phone rang on a Tuesday afternoon. I was folding laundry. The TV was on low, some local news show. I didn't pay attention until I heard the name. Hale Industries. I looked up. A reporter stood outside a building I recognized, Victor's headquarters, yellow police tape behind her. Federal investigators have confirmed that a senior account manager, Ryan Donovan, was taken into custody this morning. The laundry basket slipped. Charges include fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy to commit wire fraud. Sources say the investigation has been ongoing for months. I couldn't breathe. Donovan is held pending arraignment. The company released a statement saying they are cooperating fully and have no further comment at this time. My hands were shaking. I grabbed my phone, called Ryan, straight to voicemail, called again, voicemail, called his office, no answer. I sank to the floor. Gus came over and put his head in my lap. I stared at the TV, waiting for them to say it was a mistake. Wrong Ryan Donovan, wrong family, wrong life. They didn't. The phone rang, an unknown number. I answered. "Mrs. Donovan?" A man's voice, professional, calm. "This is Detective Morrison with the Detroit Police Department. I need you to come downtown. Your husband has been arrested." On the drive to the station, my mind raced through every possibility. Mistaken identity, wrongful accusation, a misunderstanding that would be cleared up in hours. I didn't know yet that Ryan had been hiding things for years. Didn't know about the accounts, the transfers, the lies he told me every time he said everything's fine. Didn't know that Victor Hale had been feeding false information to investigators, pointing fingers at Ryan to save himself. Didn't know that the special projects were designed to fail, designed to leave someone holding the bag when the federal government came knocking. Didn't know that the man I married, the kind, anxious, desperate to please man, had chosen to protect his boss instead of protecting us. I didn't know any of that yet. All I knew was that my husband was in handcuffs, my son was at school, about to find out from friends with phones and social media, and my life, the stable, comfortable, predictable life I'd built, was over. I pulled into the parking lot across from the police station, sat in my car for 5 minutes, gripping the steering wheel, trying to remember how to breathe. Then I walked inside, and everything changed. The police station smelled like coffee so old it had given up hope. I sat in a plastic chair against the wall, watching officers walk past with clipboards and expressions that said they'd seen everything. Nobody looked at me. Nobody needed to. I was just another wife in another nightmare. 45 minutes I waited. Then a door opened, and Detective Morrison appeared. Middle-aged, tired eyes, the kind of face that had stopped being surprised by anything. "Mrs. Donovan," he gestured toward a conference room. "Let's talk." The room was small, gray walls, a table with scars from 1,000 interrogations. I sat in one chair, Morrison in another. A female officer stood by the door. Standard procedure, I learned later. Liability protection. "Your husband is being charged with fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy," Morrison said. No warmth, no judgment, just facts. "He's been under investigation for 8 months. 8 months? My voice didn't sound like mine. "You've been watching him for 8 months and nobody told me?" "We don't notify family members during active investigations. Standard protocol." I gripped the edge of the table. "There has to be a mistake. Ryan wouldn't—" "He signed the documents, Mrs. Donovan. We have signatures. We have emails. We have wire transfers. Your husband moved over $2 million through accounts he controlled." $2 million. I thought about our house, our cars, our retirement account, the careful budget I kept for groceries, Ryan complaining about the cost of Cal's soccer camp last summer. $2 million. He was being used, I said. Victor Hale is cooperating fully with our investigation." Morrison's eyes flickered, just for a second, long enough for me to see something he wasn't saying. "He's provided extensive documentation of your husband's activities." The room tilted. Ryan worked for him. Victor gave him those accounts, those projects. Whatever Ryan did, he did because Victor told him to. "With respect, Mrs. Donovan, that's not what the evidence shows. Your husband had sole signatory authority on the accounts in question. He made the transfers. He falsified the reports. He took the money." He what? The female officer shifted slightly. Morrison didn't move. Your husband has been moving money for years. Some of it was recovered. Most wasn't. Do you know where that money went, Mrs. Donovan? I shook my head. Couldn't speak. Neither do we yet. They let me see him for 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Ryan sat behind a glass partition wearing an orange jumpsuit that hung loose on his frame. His face was gray. His eyes were red. He looks like someone had hollowed him out and left the shell. Claire, his voice cracked. Claire, I'm so sorry. What did you do? I didn't. I mean, I did, but I didn't. It's complicated. $2 million complicated? He flinched. It wasn't supposed to. Victor said what, Ryan? What did Victor say that made you think stealing $2 million was okay? I didn't steal it. I moved it. There's a difference. I stared at him. This man I'd loved for 15 years. This man who brought me coffee on Saturdays and cried at happy movies. This stranger behind glass. Where's the money? I can't. Where is it? His eyes darted left, right, nowhere. I don't know exactly. Victor handled the offshore accounts. I just followed instructions. I trusted him. I laughed, actually laughed, a horrible hollow sound. You trusted him. You trusted Victor Hale, but you didn't trust me enough to tell me any of this? I was protecting you. Protecting me? My voice rose. The officer behind me stepped forward. I didn't care. You were protecting yourself. You were protecting the Donovan name. You weren't protecting me. Claire, I have to pick up our son from school. He's been watching your arrest on social media for the last 3 hours, so forgive me if I don't have sympathy for your complicated situation. I stood up, walked toward the door. Claire, wait! I didn't wait. The school parking lot was almost empty. I was late, so late. Cal sat on a bench near the entrance, backpack at his feet, phone in his hand. When he saw my car, he stood up slowly, walked toward me like he was carrying something heavy. He got in the passenger seat, didn't say anything. Buddy, is it true? I looked at him. 14 years old. Still had baby fat in his cheeks, still slept with his old stuffed dog sometimes, still believed the world made sense. Cal, I don't know what's true yet. Everyone's sending me videos, Dad getting arrested, handcuffs, the news lady saying he stole money. His voice cracked. Is he a criminal? How do you answer that? How do you tell your child that the line between criminal and victim is sometimes drawn by people who don't care about truth? I don't know, I said finally. I really don't know. Cal nodded, looked out the window. Mom, are we going to be okay? I reached over and took his hand. His fingers were cold. We're going to find out. The phone started ringing that night and didn't stop. Linda called first. Her voice was tight, controlled, the voice she used at charity galas, not with family. Claire, we need to talk about the media situation. Linda, your son is in jail. I'm aware of that, and we need to manage the narrative for the family's sake. For the family's sake. I repeated the words slowly. Let them land. Your son is in jail, and you're worried about the family reputation? Claire, I know you're upset, but don't. My voice was sharp, new. Don't tell me how I am. Your son is in jail. My husband is in jail. Our son is watching videos of your husband in handcuffs, so forgive me if I don't care about the family narrative right now. Linda was quiet for a moment. Then, we'll talk when you're calmer. She hung up. Tom called an hour later. His voice was different, heavier, older. Claire, tell me what happened. I don't know, Tom. Ryan won't talk. The police say he stole money. Victor Hale is blaming everything on him. Victor. Tom spat the name. I brought that man into our lives. I trusted him. We all trusted someone. Does Ryan have a lawyer? He says the court will appoint one. We can't afford. I'll handle it. Tom's voice was firm. I'll call Nate. He knows people. We'll get someone good. Tom, he's my son, Claire. Whatever he did, he's still my son. For a moment, just a moment, I felt something like hope, like maybe family meant something after all. Then Tom added, but if this goes public, if it affects the business, we may need to distance ourselves temporarily for appearances. I understand, because what else could I say? I understood perfectly. The first week was survival. Ryan was denied bail, flight risk, they said, given the amount of money involved. I visited him twice. He cried both times. I didn't. The news coverage got worse. Hale Industries scandal, local manager charged with fraud, Ryan's face on every screen, every paper, every phone. Someone threw a rock through our living room window Wednesday night. I didn't call the police. What would I say? Cal stopped going to school. Bullies had found him. He wouldn't tell me what they said, but I saw the bruises on his knuckles. He'd tried to fight back. Lost. The bookstore called, said they were restructuring and wouldn't need me anymore. Translation? They didn't want the scandal in their store. I checked our bank accounts. Most were frozen. The ones that weren't had less money than I expected, much less. Ryan had been moving things around for months, and I never noticed, never asked, never wanted to know. That part still haunts me. Not the fraud, not the lies, the fact that I chose not to see. A man named Luis Moreno came to my door on Friday. Luis was Victor Hale's junior partner, young, ambitious, always smiling. He'd been at company picnics and holiday parties. I'd made him cookies once, and he told me they were the best he'd ever had. Luis, I said. I didn't invite him in. What do you want? Just to talk. Victor sent me. He's so devastated by all this, truly devastated. Ryan was like family to him. Was. Luis's smile flickered. Victor wants you to know that he's cooperating fully with the investigation. He has no choice. The federal government is involved now. But he also wants you to know that he bears no ill will toward Ryan. He hopes Ryan will do the right thing. The right thing. Take responsibility. Accept the charges. Don't drag this out. Luis's voice was soft, reasonable. Victor would be willing to write a letter of leniency to the court, speak on Ryan's behalf at sentencing, but only if Ryan cooperates. Cooperate how? Accept responsibility. Don't implicate anyone else. Make this easy for everyone. I looked at Luis, this man who'd eaten my cookies, laughed at my jokes, and pretended to be my friend for years. Get off my porch. Mrs. Donovan. I said, get off my porch. He left, still smiling. That night, I couldn't sleep. I wandered through the house like a ghost, touching things that used to feel like mine. Cal's baby pictures, the wedding album, a vase from our honeymoon in Mexico. All of it felt hollow now, like props in a play that had ended. Around 2 a.m., I ended up in the basement. Ryan's work stuff was down here. Boxes of old files, a desk he never used, a filing cabinet he'd brought home years ago. I'd never paid attention to it. It was his space, his mess, not my concern. I opened the filing cabinet. Most of it was junk. Old tax returns, manuals for equipment we didn't own, receipts from restaurants long closed. But in the back, behind a stack of folders, I found a box, small, metal, locked. I stared at it for a long time. Then I took a hammer from Ryan's toolbox and broke the lock. Inside Notebooks. Dozens of them. Handwritten notes in Ryan's messy scrawl. Dates, names, numbers, transfers, offshore account details, and at the bottom, a single thumb drive with a sticky note attached. For Claire, if something happens, I'm sorry. I sat on the basement floor until sunrise, reading, learning, understanding. My husband hadn't just made mistakes, he'd built a system, and Victor Hale, the man my father-in-law trusted, the man Ryan called his mentor, had built it with him. But Victor had built it to fail, built it so that when the investigation came, there would be someone else to blame. Ryan didn't see it, or didn't want to see it, but I did. Morning came. Cal found me in the basement, still holding the notebooks. "Mom, what's that?" I looked at my son. His face was thinner than it had been a week ago. Dark circles under his eyes, a cut on his lip from the fight he wouldn't talk about. "Evidence," I said. "For what?" I stood up. My knees cracked. My head pounded, but for the first time in a week, my hands weren't shaking. For the truth. Cal looked at the notebooks, looked at me. "What are you going to do?" I thought about Ryan behind glass, about Victor's people on my porch, about the rock through my window, about the Donovans and their temporary distancing, about $2 million nobody could find. I'm going to figure out what really happened, and then I'm going to decide what to do about it. Cal nodded slowly. "Can I help?" I pulled him into a hug, tight, desperate, real. "We're going to be okay," I whispered. "I don't know how yet, but we're going to be okay." The basement became my war room. 3 days after I found the notebooks, I moved a card table down there, brought in a lamp, and spread everything out like evidence in a crime show, which I supposed it was. Cal brought me coffee without being asked. He'd check on me between online classes, hover in the doorway, then disappear. He didn't ask what I was doing. Maybe he was afraid of the answer. Maybe he already knew. The notebooks were a mess. Ryan's handwriting was tiny, cramped, obsessive. Dates and numbers and initials, account codes, names I didn't recognize. Transfers marked VT, Victor, I assumed, and others marked OS that took me days to figure out meant offshore. But the thumb drive was the real find. It wasn't just data, it was a confession. Emails between Ryan and Victor, months of them, years maybe. Ryan asking questions. Is this legal? Are you sure about the reporting? What happens if someone audits these accounts? And Victor's replies, standard practice. Everyone does this. Trust me, Ryan. I've been doing this for 30 years. Trust me. Those 2 words had destroyed my husband. Trust me had made him a criminal. Trust me had put him in an orange jumpsuit and left me in a basement with the evidence. But there was more. In the last email chain, dated 6 months before the arrest, Ryan had finally pushed back. He'd discovered something Victor didn't want him to find. "Victor, the Grand Cayman accounts don't match our internal records. There's over $800,000 unaccounted for. Please advise." Victor's reply came 3 hours later. "Come to my office tomorrow. We'll sort it out." That was the last email between them. The next day, Ryan was assigned to special projects, the ones that eventually got him arrested, the ones designed to fail, the ones built to make him the fall guy. I sat back in my chair. The basement was cold. My coffee was cold. Everything was cold. Victor hadn't just thrown Ryan under the bus. He'd built the bus, paved the road, bought the tickets. And my husband, my desperate, anxious, approval-seeking husband, had climbed aboard willingly. I needed help, professional help, someone who understood how this world worked. The internet led me to Maggie Reyes. Maggie was an investigative journalist who'd spent 15 years covering corporate crime in the Rust Belt. She'd won awards. She'd been threatened. She kept going. Her latest series was about exactly this: companies blaming low-level employees for corruption that went all the way to the top. I emailed her at 2 a.m., expected nothing. She called at 7 a.m. Claire Donovan, her voice was raspy, direct, no nonsense. I got your email. Tell me everything. I did. 2 hours on the phone. The notebooks, the emails, the thumb drive, Victor's people at my door, Ryan in jail, Cal's bruises. Maggie listened without interrupting. When she finished, she was quiet for a moment. Where are you right now? Home, basement. Stay there. I'm in Cleveland. I can be in Detroit by noon. Don't talk to anyone else. Don't throw anything away. Don't do anything until I get there. Maggie? Claire. Her voice softened, just slightly. I did the right thing calling me. Most people in your position just disappear, go quiet, let the system eat them up. You didn't. That matters. Thank you, I whispered. Thank me later. Make coffee. I'm bringing a lawyer. Maggie arrived at 1:30 with a woman named Priya Sharma. Priya was a defense attorney who'd worked for the federal prosecutor's office before switching sides. She knew the system from the inside, knew the judges, the procedures, the loopholes, knew that when corporations like Hale Industries got in trouble, they sacrificed people like Ryan to save people like Victor. We sat in my living room, with my family photos and comfortable couches and the vase from Mexico, and laid everything out on the coffee table. Priya read through the emails slowly, carefully, making notes. This is good, she said finally. Good? I stared at her. My husband is going to prison. Your husband may be going to prison, but Victor Hale should be going to prison for the rest of his life. She looked up at me. And with this evidence, we might be able to make that happen. Maggie nodded. The feds already have a case against Ryan, but if we can show Victor was the architect, that Ryan was following orders, that Victor set him up, they might flip the investigation, target Victor instead, or at least add him as a co-conspirator. My head was spinning. So Ryan could get out? Maybe, not definitely. He still broke laws. He still moved money. But if he cooperates, if we can get him to cooperate, his sentence could be significantly reduced. Cooperate. Ryan hadn't cooperated with anyone. He'd been sitting in that cell, refusing to talk, probably still hoping Victor would save him, still trusting. He won't talk, I said quietly. He's terrified of Victor, terrified of his father, terrified of everyone. Then you need to talk to him. Priya's eyes were steady. You need to make him understand that Victor isn't coming to save him, that his only way out is through the truth. I visited Ryan the next day. He looked worse than before, thinner, grayer. His eyes had that hollow look of someone who'd stopped hoping. Claire, he pressed his hand against the glass. I didn't press back. I found the notebooks. His face went pale. What notebooks? The ones in the basement, the thumb drive, the emails between you and Victor. Ryan closed his eyes. Claire, you shouldn't have... I shouldn't have what? Found evidence that might save you, that might put the real criminal in prison? Victor set you up. He built this whole thing to fail, and he built it so you'd take the fall. I have the proof. Emails where you asked if things were legal, emails where he told you it was fine, emails where you discovered the missing money right before he gave you the special projects that got you arrested. Ryan was quiet for a long moment. He's going to destroy us, he whispered. If I talk, he'll destroy everything, the family, the business, my father's legacy. Your father's legacy? I laughed, bitter, sharp. Your father's already distancing himself. For appearances, that's what he said. You're in jail and he's worried about appearances. Ryan flinched. And Victor? I continued. Victor sent Luis to my door, told me you should accept responsibility, make it easy for everyone. He's not trying to save you. He's trying to bury you. Claire, I'm not finished. My voice was low, hard. Your son is being beaten up at school. I lost my job. Someone threw a rock through our window. We have no money, no support, no future. And the man who did this to us, the man who used you and framed you, is sitting in his nice house, drinking his nice wine, waiting for you to be quiet so he can move on to the next victim. Ryan's eyes were wet. I didn't know. I didn't think. No, you didn't. You trusted him instead of me. You protected him instead of us. I know what you were trying to do. You were trying to prove yourself to Victor, to your father, to everyone except the people who actually loved you. I stood up. Priya Sharma is a lawyer. She's good. She's going to visit you tomorrow. You're going to tell her everything, every detail, every name, every account. And then you're going to cooperate with the federal investigation and pray that's enough. Claire, wait. I paused at the door. Ryan, I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing this for Cal, for our son, so he doesn't grow up knowing his father went to prison while the man who really did it got away. I walked out, didn't look back. Over the next 2 weeks, my life became research. Priya visited Ryan. He talked, finally, completely. She brought the transcripts to Maggie. Maggie cross-referenced them with public records, financial disclosures, and a dozen sources she'd cultivated over years. The picture that emerged was worse than I'd imagined. Victor Hale had been running this play for decades. Ryan wasn't his first fall guy. He wasn't even the fifth. There was a man in Toledo, a woman in Youngstown, a family in Erie whose father had killed himself rather than face charges that should have gone to Victor. Maggie found them all, called them, interviewed them, built a web of victims connected by one name. And then she found Margaret. Margaret was in her 60s, living in a small apartment outside Pittsburgh. Her husband had worked for Victor 30 years ago. Same pattern, same setup, same betrayal. But back then, there was no internet, no way to connect the dots. Her husband died in prison. Heart attack, they said. Margaret always believed it was the stress, the injustice, the weight of taking the fall for a man who never faced a single charge. I called her one night. We talked for 2 hours. Claire, she said at the end, her voice thin and tired, you have something I never had. Proof. People who believe you. Don't let them silence you. Don't let them win. After we hung up, I sat in the dark for a long time. Margaret's husband died in prison. Mine might live, but only if I kept fighting. The pressure came from all sides. Tom Donovan called weekly, not to check on me, to check on the situation, to ask if I'd talked to reporters, to remind me that the Donovan name still mattered in this city. Claire, I know you're angry. I understand, but airing our dirty laundry publicly won't help anyone. Tom, your son is in jail. And Victor Hale will get what's coming to him through the proper channels, through the legal system, not through the media. Victor Hale has been getting what's coming to him for 30 years. The proper channels haven't stopped him. Tom was quiet. Then, don't do anything rash. I hung up. Linda sent a letter, handwritten, formal. She reminded me that family loyalty meant something, that public scrutiny hurt everyone, that perhaps I should focus on supporting Ryan rather than investigating things that were best left alone. I threw it away. Luis Moreno showed up again, this time with flowers, apologies, an offer. Victor wanted to help with Cal's school tuition, with our mortgage, with anything we needed. All Victor asks is that you stop talking to that journalist. She's sensationalizing everything, making things worse for everyone. I looked at the flowers, looked at Luis, remembered his smile on my porch weeks ago. Get out. Mrs. Donovan, I said get out, and tell Victor that if he comes near me or my son again, I'll release everything. Every email, every notebook, every detail of the last 30 years. Luis's smile finally faded. He left without another word. 3 weeks after Maggie's first visit, she called with news. The feds are reopening the investigation. They're looking at Victor now. Officially. I sank into a chair. Are you serious? Dead serious. Your evidence, Ryan's testimony, the emails, the offshore accounts, it's enough to expand the case. They're interviewing Margaret tomorrow, the family in Erie, everyone. What does that mean for Ryan? Depends. He's cooperating fully now, which helps, but he still broke laws. He'll still do time, probably less than before, maybe much less. We're negotiating. I close my eyes. And Victor? If we're lucky, if the evidence holds, Victor Hale could spend the rest of his life in federal prison. I thought about Margaret's husband, about the man in Toledo, about everyone Victor destroyed while walking free. Let's get lucky, I said. But victory doesn't come free. The stress ate at me. I stopped sleeping, stopped eating properly, lost weight I couldn't afford to lose. Cal found me crying in the kitchen at 3 a.m. one night. Not sad crying, just overwhelmed crying. Everything pouring out at once. He sat with me until sunrise, didn't say much, just stayed. "Mom," he said eventually, "are we going to be okay?" I looked at my son, this kid who'd been beaten up for his father's crimes, who'd lost his friends, his school, his normal life, who still brought me coffee every morning without being asked. "We're going to be okay," I said. "I don't know how, I don't know when, but we're going to be okay." He nodded, leaned his head on my shoulder, stayed there until the sun came up. Something shifted in me that night. Not forgiveness, not hope exactly, something harder, sharper. I realized I'd spent my whole life being the person who held things together, the one who smoothed things over, the one who didn't make waves. That person let Victor Hale destroy my family. That person let Ryan's desperation go unchecked. That person almost let us drown. I wasn't that person anymore. The next morning, I called Maggie. "What's next?" She laughed, real laughter, warm and surprised. "Claire Donovan, you're something else. I'm just getting started. We're meeting with the federal prosecutor next week. You should be there. Tell your story. Let them see who they're dealing with. Count me in." The federal courthouse in Detroit is a fortress of gray stone and cold marble. It doesn't care about your story, doesn't care about your pain. It just sits there, massive and indifferent, swallowing people whole. I stood outside it on a Monday morning in March, 6 months after Ryan's arrest. The sky was the color of old silver. My hands were shaking. "You ready?" Maggie stood beside me, coffee in one hand, notebook in the other. "No." She smiled. "Good. Ready people are usually lying anyway." We walked inside together. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Wood-paneled walls, fluorescent lights that hummed quietly, rows of benches like church pews. Victor Hale sat at the defense table, wearing a suit that probably cost more than my car. He looked older than I remembered, silver hair perfectly combed, face tanned and smooth. He'd been out on bail for 3 months, living in his nice house, drinking his nice wine, waiting. He didn't look at me. Luis Moreno sat behind him, expression carefully neutral. He'd been indicted too, lesser charges, cooperation pending. The smile I remembered was gone, replaced by something cautious, calculating. The prosecutor, Diana Reyes, no relation to Maggie, though they'd worked together before, was already arranging documents at her table. She was sharp, methodical, the kind of woman who noticed everything. And Ryan? Ryan sat at another table, in a gray suit Tom had bought him, flanked by Priya. He looked smaller than I remembered, thinner, older. When he turned to find me in the gallery, his eyes filled with something I couldn't name. I nodded once. That's all. The first 2 days were legal arguments, motions, technicalities. I sat in the back, taking notes, watching Victor's lawyers spin and deflect like professionals. On day 3, Ryan testified. He walked to the stand like a man approaching his own execution. Priya had prepared him. They'd rehearsed for weeks. But nothing prepares you for the moment when you have to tell the truth in front of everyone who ever trusted you. "Mr. Donovan, can you describe your relationship with Victor Hale?" Ryan swallowed. He was like a second father to me. My real father, Tom, he's a good man, but he's demanding. Victor was different. He praised me, believed in me, made me feel like I mattered. "And when did he first ask you to do something you suspected was illegal?" "About 4 years in. He asked me to move money between accounts in a way that didn't match the paperwork. I asked if it was legal. He said it was standard practice. Everyone did it. Did you believe him? Ryan's eyes found me in the gallery. I wanted to believe him. I needed to believe him. Victor was the only person besides my wife who ever made me feel enough. Diana walked him through the years, the transfers, the falsified reports, the offshore accounts. Ryan's voice got smaller with every revelation. Then she asked about the Grand Cayman discrepancy, the moment Ryan realized something was wrong. I found $800,000 that didn't match our records. I emailed Victor, asked for an explanation. And what did he say? Ryan's voice cracked. He said to come to his office. We'd sort it out. Did you sort it out? No. Ryan's eyes were wet. The next day, he assigned me to new accounts, special projects, he called them, told me not to worry about the old ones anymore, said he'd handle it. Those special projects, the ones he assigned you, are the basis of the charges against you. Is that correct? Yes. Did you ever question Victor about why you were suddenly handling accounts that later proved to be fraudulent? Ryan was quiet for a long moment. The courtroom held its breath. I was afraid, he finally whispered. I was afraid if I pushed back, he'd expose everything. The earlier transfers, the offshore accounts. I'd already broken the law, even if I didn't fully understand it at the time. I thought if I just did what he said, kept my head down, it would all work out. Diana let the silence hang. Then, Mr. Donovan, did you ever personally profit from these transfers? No, God, no. The money went to accounts Victor controlled. I never saw a dime. Then why did you do it? Ryan looked at me again, at Cal sitting beside me, expression unreadable. Because I wanted to be someone my father would be proud of, someone my wife could look up to, someone my son would admire. Victor promised me that, and I was stupid enough to believe him. Victor testified on day 5. He was polished, charming, the kind of witness who smiled at the jury and made them want to smile back. His story was simple. Ryan acted alone. Victor had no knowledge of the fraud. Any emails suggesting otherwise were misinterpreted. Ryan was a desperate man trying to save himself by blaming his boss. Diana shredded him on cross-examination, Maggie whispered to me during a recess. But juries like Victor. He looks like their grandfather. I watched the jurors during Victor's testimony. Some looked skeptical. Others nodded along, believed him. This was the moment I'd been dreading, the moment when evidence met humanity, when facts met faces. Victor had the better face. On day 7, the prosecutor called me. I'd never testified in court before, never sat in that chair, hand on a Bible, promising to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. Diana walked me through the basics. My name, my marriage, the day of the arrest, the media, the rock through my window, Cal's bruises. Then she asked about the basement. Mrs. Donovan, after your husband's arrest, did you discover something in your home? I did. A box of notebooks and a thumb drive in my basement. And what did you do with those items? I contacted Maggie Reyes, an investigative journalist. Then I met with Priya Sharma, my husband's attorney. Why did you do that? Why not just give everything to the police? I looked at the jury. 7 women, 5 men. Ordinary people who'd been pulled away from their lives to judge ours. Because I didn't trust the police. Not yet. I didn't know who Victor owned. I didn't know who was compromised. I needed help from people who weren't part of the system. And what did you find? I told them about Margaret, about the man in Toledo, about the family in Erie whose father died in prison, about 30 years of victims connected by one name. Victor's lawyer objected 3 times. Each time, the judge overruled. When I finished, the courtroom was silent. Diana approached the bench. Your Honor, I'd like to play a recording for the jury. I'd recorded every conversation since Luis's first visit. The flowers, the offers, the threats veiled as kindness. The recording played through courtroom speakers. Luis Moreno's smooth voice promising help if I just stopped talking, offering money for Cal's tuition. reminding me what happened to people who crossed Victor Hale. On the tape, my own voice sounded stronger than I remembered. Get out and tell Victor that if he comes near me or my son again, I'll release everything, every email, every notebook, every detail of the last 30 years. The jury's eyes moved from the speakers to Victor, to Luis, back to Victor. For the first time, Victor's smile wavered. Deliberations took 3 days. 3 days of waiting, 3 days of pacing my living room, Cal doing homework at the kitchen table, both of us pretending we weren't counting the hours. On the third afternoon, my phone rang. "Verdict's in." Maggie's voice was tight. "Get down here." The courtroom was packed when we arrived. Reporters, family, the curious and the connected. Tom and Linda sat on the opposite side, close enough to be seen, far enough to deny involvement. Victor walked in looking confident. He'd been confident for 30 years. Why would today be different? The judge entered. We stood, sat, waited. On the charge of conspiracy to commit wire fraud, how do you find? The foreman, a middle-aged man with glasses and steady eyes, stood up. Guilty. Victor's expression didn't change. He'd been guilty before, gotten out before. On the charge of embezzlement, how do you find? Guilty. On the charge of money laundering, how do you find? Guilty. On the charge of witness tampering, how do you find? Guilty. 4 counts, 4 guilty verdicts. Victor's face went gray. His lawyers leaned in, whispering urgently. Luis Marino stared straight ahead, already calculating his own deal. I grabbed Cal's hand, squeezed. "Mom," he whispered, "did we win?" I couldn't speak, just nodded. Victor's conviction didn't mean Ryan walked free. He'd still broken laws, still signed documents, still moved money. Priya negotiated for months, leveraging his cooperation against his culpability. On a rainy Thursday in June, Ryan stood before the same judge and learned his fate. "Ryan Donovan, you have been convicted of fraud and conspiracy. However, the court acknowledges your substantial cooperation in the prosecution of Victor Hale and others. Your actions, while illegal, were undertaken under significant duress and manipulation." The judge adjusted her glasses. "I sentence you to 36 months in federal prison with eligibility for early release after 24 months for good behavior. You will also complete 500 hours of community service upon release and pay restitution in the amount of $50,000. 3 years, maybe 2. I'd prepared myself for worse. Priya had warned me to expect 5 to 7. Ryan turned to look at me. His eyes were wet. His lips moved, "Thank you," but no sound came out. I didn't smile, didn't cry, just nodded, the way I'd done 100 times before. But this time, the nod meant something different. After the sentencing, the Donovans found me in the hallway. Tom looked older. The past year had carved lines into his face that hadn't been there before. Linda stood beside him, perfect as always, but softer somehow, less armored. "Claire," Tom's voice was rough, "I don't know what to say." "Then don't say anything." "I should have been there, for you, for Cal. I was worried about the business, the reputation, and I should have been worried about my family." I looked at this man, this proud, stubborn man who'd built an empire with his hands and nearly lost his son to his pride. "You're right," I said. "You should have." Linda stepped forward. "Claire, we want to help with Cal's school, with the house, with... I don't need your money." "I know." Her voice cracked, actually cracked. "I know you don't, but we want to be part of your lives again, if you'll let us, if Cal will let us." I thought about all those Sunday dinners, the comparisons, the silences, the weight of being measured and found wanting. "We'll see," I said. "Cal gets to decide, not me." Linda nodded, wiped her eyes, nodded again. Tom held out his hand. I looked at it for a long moment, then I took it. One handshake, that's all, but it was more than we'd had in years. That night, I sat on my porch alone. The house was quiet. Cal was at a friend's, his first real social invitation since everything happened. I'd said yes without hesitation. The street was dark, peaceful, ordinary. I thought about the woman I'd been a year ago, the one who trusted without question, who let others handle the hard things, who believed that love meant not looking too closely. That woman was gone. In her place was someone harder, sharper, someone who knew that safety wasn't guaranteed, that trust had to be earned, that the people who smiled widest were sometimes hiding the sharpest knives, but also someone who knew her own strength. I'd spent months digging through evidence, confronting powerful men, standing in courtrooms and telling the truth, fighting for my son, my family, my future. I hadn't known I could do any of that. Now I knew. The porch light flickered. Old bulb, loose connection. I made a mental note to fix it tomorrow. Tomorrow. Such an ordinary word. Such a gift. Ryan transferred to a federal prison in West Virginia. Minimum security, far enough to feel distant, close enough for visits once a month. I visited him for the first time 2 weeks after his sentencing. We sat in a room full of families, wives and children, parents and siblings, all of us pretending this was normal, that plastic chairs and vending machine coffee and guards at the door were just part of life. Claire, Ryan's voice was clearer than they'd been in years. I don't know how to thank you. Don't thank me. I didn't do it for you. He flinched, recovered. I know. You did it for Cal, for yourself. I understand. Do you? He's starting to. He leaned forward. I've had a lot of time to think about what I did, why I did it, about all the ways I failed you long before I got arrested. I waited. You deserved better, Claire. Cal deserved better. I was so desperate to prove myself to everyone else that I forgot the only people who mattered were already in my life, already loved me, already thought I was enough. His voice broke. I'm sorry, Claire. I know sorry doesn't fix anything, but I'm sorry. I looked at this man, my husband, the father of my child, the stranger I'd loved for 15 years. Sorry is a start. Not enough, but it's a start. We sat in silence for a while. The room hummed with other conversations, other griefs, other attempts at connection. Will you come back? Ryan asked finally. Probably not for you, for Cal. He needs to see his father, needs to know he's still your father. Claire? I'm not promising anything, Ryan, about us, about after. I don't know what happens when you get out. I don't know if there's an us to go back to. He nodded slowly. I understand. Good. Then we understand each other. 3 months later, Victor Hale was sentenced to 20 years in federal prison. 20 years. The courtroom erupted when the judge announced it, reporters scrambling, family members crying. Victor's face, that perfect, polished face, finally showing something. Real. Fear. I sat in the front row, Cal beside me, Maggie on my left, Priya on my right. When they led Victor out in handcuffs, he looked at me, just for a second, long enough to see that I wasn't afraid of him anymore, long enough to know that I'd won. I didn't smile, didn't gloat, didn't do anything but meet his eyes and hold them. Then they took him away. The days after the trial were strange, quiet. I'd spent so long fighting, investigating, planning, preparing, that I didn't know what to do with stillness. Cal went back to school full-time, made a few friends, started talking about college. The bruises healed, the nightmares faded. I found a new job, administrative work at a small nonprofit. Nothing glamorous, nothing connected to my old life, just honest work that paid the bills and left my mind free. The Donovan family crept back slowly, tentatively. Tom brought Cal a birthday present, a new laptop, too expensive, clearly an apology. Linda called occasionally, asking nothing, just checking in. I let them. Didn't trust them completely, probably never would, but let them. And Ryan? I visited him once a month. We talked about Cal, about his therapy, court-ordered, but he'd embraced it, about the books he was reading, the classes he was taking, the person he was trying to become. He asked about us once. I told him the truth. I didn't know, couldn't know, wouldn't know until he got out and proved himself in the real world. Fair enough, he said, and meant it. One night late, I sat on my porch again. The same porch where a year ago, broken and lost. The same house, the same street, the same life, but different. Cal was inside, studying for finals. The light in his window was warm, golden, ordinary. I thought about Margaret, alone in her apartment outside Pittsburgh, about the family in Erie, about everyone Victor hurt who never got a day in court. I thought about Ryan in his prison cell, learning to be someone new. I thought about myself. Here's what I learned. You don't know what you're capable of until you have no choice. I wasn't brave, I was desperate. I wasn't strong, I was stubborn. I wasn't a hero. I was a mother who refused to let her son be destroyed by someone else's greed. And that was enough. That had to be enough. The porch light flickered. I never fixed it. Maybe I liked it that way. A reminder that some things don't need to be perfect. Some things just need to work well enough. Like me. Like my family. Like the strange, broken, healing thing we were becoming. I sat there until the stars came out. Then I went inside, kissed Cal goodnight, and slept better than I had in years. 2 years and 8 months after Ryan's arrest, I drove to West Virginia to pick him up from prison. The morning was cold. October again. The month everything always seemed to happen. Frost on the windshield, breath fogging in the air. Cal in the passenger seat, 17 now, almost a man, quiet in that way he'd developed since everything fell apart. "You okay?" I asked him. "Fine." Liar. He almost smiled. Almost. Nervous. Weird. I don't know. Me neither. We drove the rest of the way in silence. The prison gates looked smaller than I remembered, or maybe I'd just grown. Ryan walked out at 9:47 a.m. I know because I looked at the dashboard clock when I saw him, needing to mark the moment, needing to remember. He looked different. Not just older, though he was, thinner, grayer, but something else too. Softer in some ways, harder in others. He walked toward the car slowly, like he wasn't sure he was allowed to hurry. When he reached us, he stopped, stood there, looked at me, looked at Cal. "Hi," he said. That's all. Just, hi. Cal got out of the car, walked around to face his father. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Cal hugged him. Not a polite hug, a real one. The kind that said, "I'm still here. I'm still your son. I missed you." Ryan's face crumpled. He held on like Cal might disappear. I watched from the driver's seat, hands on the wheel, not crying. Not yet. Ryan sat in the back seat, didn't complain, didn't ask to sit up front, just watched the trees and highways and strip malls roll past like he'd never seen them before. "Everything's different," he said quietly. "Some things," I agreed. "Cal, you're huge. When did you get huge?" "Genetics," Mom sighed. Ryan laughed, a real laugh, surprised out of him. It was the first time I'd heard that sound in years. We stopped for lunch at a diner off the highway. Nothing fancy, just burgers and fries, and coffee that tasted like warm regret. Ryan ate like he hadn't seen food in decades. Maybe it felt that way. "Therapies helped," he said between bites. "There's a program inside. Group stuff, individual. I did a lot of work." "That's good," I said. "I know it doesn't fix anything. I know I can't just come back and pretend. But I wanted you to know. I've been trying." Cal looked at me. I looked at my coffee. "We'll see," I said. "We'll take it slow." Ryan nodded. "Slow is good. I can do slow." He stayed in the guest room. I'd thought about it beforehand, where he'd sleep, what it would mean. The guest room felt right. Close enough to be family,
far enough to be honest. That night, after Cal went to bed, Ryan and I sat on the porch. The same porch where I'd sat alone so many times, the same flickering light I'd never fixed. I used to imagine this, getting out, coming home, sitting here with you. What did you imagine? Different things. Sometimes you'd be happy to see me. Sometimes you'd slam the door in my face. Sometimes you'd already be gone. I let the silence stretch. I thought about leaving, I admitted, more than once. When things were hardest, when Cal was getting hurt, when your family disappeared, when I was alone in that basement, surrounded by evidence of everything you'd hidden from me. Ryan didn't speak, just listened. But I stayed, not for you, for me, for Cal, for the life I'd built, even if it was broken. And somewhere along the way, I stopped being the woman you married. I know, he said quietly. I can see it. You're different. Better different? That's not for me to decide. But you're not afraid anymore. I can see that too. I looked at him, really looked. This man who'd broken my trust, my heart, my sense of safety. This man who was also Cal's father, my husband, the person I'd once promised to love forever. I'm not afraid, I said. Not of Victor, not of your family, not of being alone, not of you. Good. His voice was soft. You shouldn't be. We sat there until the stars came out, not touching, not talking, just being. It wasn't forgiveness, wasn't reconciliation, wasn't anything you'd put in a movie, but it was something. The months that followed were strange, ordinary and extraordinary at the same time. Ryan got a job, nothing fancy, warehouse work, honest labor. He came home tired and sore and somehow happier than I'd ever seen him. He went to therapy twice a week, attended a group support group for formerly incarcerated people, read books about accountability and emotional intelligence and being present. Cal started his senior year, college applications, scholarships. He wanted to study journalism. Like Maggie, he said, wanted to tell stories that mattered. The Donovans crept back slowly, tentatively. Tom invited us to Sunday dinner, the first time in years. I went, Cal beside me, Ryan nervous in the passenger seat. It was strange, awkward. Linda overcompensated with food, Tom made stilted conversation, Nate and Aaron avoided eye contact. But we stayed, ate, talked, left. It wasn't healed, probably never would be, but it was something. 6 months after Ryan came home, we had the conversation I'd been avoiding. Claire. He found me on the porch. My porch now. My space. Can we talk? I gestured to the chair beside me. He sat, took a breath. I'm not going to ask you if we're okay. I know we're not. I know we might never be. I waited. But I need you to know something. I spent 2 years in that prison thinking about every choice I made, every moment I chose Victor over you, every time I lied, hid things, let you believe I was someone I wasn't. His voice cracked. I was so desperate to be enough for everyone else that I forgot I was already enough for you. You loved me, really loved me, and I threw it away because it didn't feel like enough, because I needed the world to love me too. I'm sorry, he continued. I know sorry is cheap. I know I've said it before, but I'm going to keep saying it and keep showing it for the rest of my life, if that's what it takes. I looked at this man, this broken, trying, failing, trying again man. I don't know if I can love you the way I did before. That woman is gone. I know. But I don't hate you. I don't even really blame you anymore. Not completely. You were manipulated, used, preyed upon by someone who knew exactly how to exploit your weaknesses. Still my fault. Still my choices. Yes, they were. And you're paying for them. We all are.
We sat in silence. But, I said slowly, I'm not closed to the idea of something eventually. If you keep doing the work, if you keep showing up, if you become someone I can trust again. Ryan's eyes filled with tears. That's more than I deserve. Probably, but it's what I'm offering. He nodded, wiped his eyes, nodded again. Thank you, he whispered. Thank you for not giving up on me completely. Don't thank me yet. The hard part's still ahead. I know. I'm ready. Cal graduated high school that June. Valedictorian, full scholarship to Michigan State, a future ahead of him that had nothing to do with his father's crimes or his mother's fight or any of the darkness we'd lived through. After the ceremony, we stood in the gymnasium with all the other families. Ryan in a borrowed suit, me in a dress I'd bought for the occasion, Tom and Linda hovering nearby, proud and awkward. Cal found us in the crowd, hugged me first, then Ryan, then stood back, grinning. I did it, he said. You did it, I agreed. All by yourself. Not by myself, he looked at me, then at Ryan. You guys, you fought for me, both of you, in your own ways. I know it wasn't easy. I know it's still not easy, but I saw it. I saw everything. Ryan's face crumpled. I wasn't much better. We're proud of you, Ryan managed, so proud. Cal nodded. I know. Then he pulled us both into a hug, the three of us, together, for the first time in years that didn't feel forced or fragile. It wasn't fixed, wasn't perfect, wasn't a movie ending, but it was real. A week after graduation, I received a letter. Prison return address. Victor Hale's name. I almost threw it away. Almost, but something made me open it. Claire, I'm not writing to ask for forgiveness. I'm not writing to explain myself. I'm writing because I need you to know something I've never admitted to anyone. You won. Not because you put me here, not because the courts believed you, but because you never stopped fighting, because you refused to be a victim, because you took everything he threw at you and threw it back. I've spent 30 years destroying people like your husband, weak people, desperate people, people who wanted something so badly they trade their integrity for it. But you wanted nothing from me. You just wanted the truth. I underestimated you. That was my mistake. I'll be here for a long time, long enough to think about that. Victor. I read the letter twice, then I folded it carefully and put it in a drawer. Not because it mattered, because it was proof. Proof that the woman who sat in that basement, surrounded by evidence, fighting for her family, that woman had won. Not just the case, not just the conviction, but the thing that really matters. She'd won herself. 2 years later, I still sit on this porch. The light still flickers. I still haven't fixed it. Some things don't need fixing. Cal is at college, thriving. He calls every Sunday, tells me about classes and friends, and the girl he's too nervous to ask out. He's going to be okay. Better than okay. Ryan is Ryan. We're not back together, not really, but we're something. He has his own apartment now, his own life, his own recovery. We have dinner once a week, talk on the phone, co-parents like people who've learned that love isn't enough, but neither is giving up. The Donovans are part of our lives again, imperfectly, carefully, but they show up. That's something. And me? I'm still learning. Learning that strength isn't about never breaking. It's about breaking and choosing to rebuild. Learning that trust isn't about being blind. It's about seeing clearly and choosing to stay anyway. Learning that survival isn't about winning. It's about waking up every day and deciding to keep going. I used to believe that marriage meant safety, that the man you chose, the family you built, the life you created together, it was all supposed to protect you from the world. I was wrong. But here's what I know now. Safety isn't something anyone can give you. It's something you build yourself, brick by brick, choice by choice, day by day. I built mine in a basement, surrounded by evidence. I built it in courtrooms, telling the truth. I built it on this porch, alone, watching the stars come out. And I'm still building it. We all are. If you're watching this, if you've made it this far, I need you to hear something. Maybe you're where I was, alone in a basement, surrounded by evidence of betrayal, convinced you can't fight back. You can. Maybe you're where Ryden was, desperate to prove yourself, willing to trade your integrity for approval. You don't have to. Maybe you're where Cal was, caught in the middle, hurt by choices you didn't make. You're not alone. The world is full of victors, people who will use you, exploit you, throw you away when you're not useful anymore. But it's also full of Maggies, people who will fight beside you, Priyas, people who will guide you through systems designed to break you, Cals, people who will love you anyway, even when you don't deserve it. And there's Claires, women who never knew how strong they were until they had no choice but to find out. That's the thing about survival. You don't know you're capable of it until you're in the middle of it. And then, somehow, you are. You keep going. You keep fighting. You keep choosing yourself, your children, your truth. And one day, you're sitting on a porch, watching the stars, realizing that the woman who started this journey isn't the woman who finished it. She's stronger, wiser, more afraid, maybe, because now she knows what's possible, but also more brave, because now she knows what she's capable of. My name is Claire Donovan. I lost my husband before I ever knew I had to fight for him. I found myself in the wreckage of everything I thought I knew. And I'm still here, still fighting, still surviving, still becoming. If you're still watching, still listening, still hoping, keep going. The stars will come out. They always do.